It seems like we haven't heard a lot from Stephen Miller recently, hasn't it? And I've really been enjoying that silence. I've really been enjoying the reprieve from screaming Stephen Thumb-like Miller on Fox all the time, or complaining he doesn't get put on CNN enough. But Stephen, in a moment in which he's, I'd say struggling is putting it lightly, decided that he wanted to reemerge and do so by complaining, pouting, and just fully breaking down. And it comes as Donald Trump is shutting him down, making him surrender, and just broadly humiliating him. And I want to get to Stephen's little baby meltdown, as well as some new reporting of his foe within the administration, Kristi Noem, facing her own difficulties. But it all begins with news that we can really revel in, and that's that Donald Trump has admitted defeat in Minnesota.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Today, Donald Trump's so-called border czar announced the administration will be concluding its operations in Minnesota.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. There will be some security teams staying here, the QRFs, until we're assured that those agitators' incidents either stay low or further decline. I'm not going to remove everybody out of the safety of our officers, but like I said, and Operation Metro Surge is ending.
Now, people on the ground in Minneapolis, St. Paul, across the state, observers across the country are understandably pretty apprehensive about declaring any kind of victory, because we have heard rhetoric like this from the Trump administration, including from Tom Homan a few weeks ago. So right now we have to wait and see what they actually do. There are still today reports, anecdotal, of ICE activity throughout the city. That said, this is a different kind of tone and does seem to be some genuine change in policy, like what happened in, say, Chicago, where they had Operation Midway Blitz and then they drew people out. It very much looks like the Trump administration is actually taking a different posture now. They may have finally realized that their occupation of an American state and cities is a failure. Because clearly they thought they were going to storm into Minneapolis and crack some skulls and undertake an explicitly racist project to harass and slander and terrorize the non-white citizens of the Twin Cities, particularly Somali Americans, and be rewarded for it politically. Instead, everyone there hated it. It has been overwhelmingly unpopular across the ideological spectrum in an incredibly diverse city. People stood shoulder to shoulder with their neighbors. They went into this incredible mode of civic resistance, unlike anything I have ever seen up close. They organized food drops for folks who were scared to go to the grocery store. They drove their friends and neighbors afraid to take public transportation, sometimes laying low in the backseat of a car so they couldn't be spotted by ICE. They organized school patrols at basically every school and daycare in the entire metro area. In 5 degrees below zero, they patrolled the schools every morning, every day at pickup, to make sure that kids and parents or teachers were not just snatched away at the bus stop or when they were dropping their kids off. Regular people built this entire infrastructure out of nowhere from scratch to stand up and defend their neighbors. Organic, homegrown mutual aid just to look out for one another. It's something we saw firsthand when we reported from Minneapolis 2 weeks ago. People refused to buckle, even after that organized resistance cost 2 people their lives in the span of a month. All these folks that were doing all this, the school patrols, driving around, monitoring ICE, they saw Renee Good and Alex Preddy killed by their own government in broad daylight and zero repercussions for the men that killed them. And you know what they kept doing? They kept resisting anyway. They wouldn't give up and they would not give in. They would not allow Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's vision for this country to prevail. So now today, it looks like they may have beaten back those forces, at least for now.
Donald Trump said that he was elected in 2024 because of prices and immigration. Donald Trump, as he did in his first term, has now given us another disastrous economy and is, for the first time since beginning his political career, way underwater. Not just underwater, because that is the first time, but way underwater on the issue of immigration. It is almost spectacular how much of a failure he is, and it is in no small part due to Stephen Miller, the most depraved and ghoul-like man in this entire administration. And so as Democrats right now are taking up a fight over DHS funding, Stephen Miller, who has already seen so many L's this week and the week before and the week before that, is melting down on Twitter. And of course he is, the poor little crybaby. Stephen Miller, not seeing the irony in this post, wrote on Twitter, from 2021 to 2024, Democrats exercise total control over U.S. immigration policy. They willfully create the largest and deadliest tsunami of illegal immigration, child trafficking, drug trafficking, and gang infiltration in history. These are the Democrats now shutting down DHS. Well, Stephen, you guys are now fully in control. Why can't you get things together? He continued, every so-called moderate Democrat voted to defund Border Patrol and abolish immigration enforcement, capping off the pity party by quote tweeting some racist shit from Homeland Security and writing the political party that Stephen meant brought you, this cataclysm is now fighting to defund ICE, CBP, the Coast Guard, and all of Homeland Security. They are fighting to dissolve America and to dissolve your future. Dissolve your future? Stephen, isn't your boss ripping up every little bit of climate policy there is, that sounds more like dissolving my future than America not being, the white homeland that you mistake it from. Like, Stephen Miller is a racist bigot, and he views everything through the little horse blinders of everyone should look like me. Why would anyone want to look like Stephen Miller? As I've said before, you are a ghoul. But your racist posting isn't going to work, Stephen. Public opinion has gone the other way. You have failed to both get the numbers that you want, to get the public support that you want, to have the support from Donald Trump that you want. And it is funny that Stephen Miller is saying, Democrats are shutting down the government. Democrats are doing this, man. At the same time as he is also saying Democrats had control of government over Joe Biden, and it's all their fault. Stephen, you have control. I don't know if you know this. You do have control of government right now. So if it's the Democrats' fault, you're just ceding the fact that you're weak. And you are. But they know that they have failed on this issue, and so they have to drum up some narrative. But what is so difficult for them to realize right now is that Donald Trump in the past has been able to lean on his racist tropes. He would always go back to the caravans and to the border and whatever he was saying. And it worked to a degree. It worked a little bit because he was a little bit more popular on the issue. That is not the case anymore. Donald Trump is, like I said, historically unpopular on immigration. That is the state of things for Donald Trump. And it's only getting worse as people continue to learn more about the corruption and chaos going on within DHS. And it starts with Kristi Noem and an affair we've talked extensively about, but now people are waking up with new reporting to how much money it's costing them.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has been very busy this week getting in front of microphones trying to save her job. Yesterday, she was in Southern California to trumpet the department's good work as its funding is about to lapse. But the event was drowned out by a throng of protesters outside blasting whistles and bullhorn sirens.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everybody. I think you're asking about detention facilities and the standards in it. Are you talking about our funding bill? I heard you ask about Operation Metro Surge and CBP and ICE, and what was the 287G?
A little hard to make it out, but that did not stop her. Today, Noem held a press conference in Phoenix claiming that DHS is now an election police force.
Although the Constitution gives states the primary responsibility for running their elections, Congress also gives authorities and duties to the federal government. Now, as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, those authorities lie within my department, and the responsibility lies with me.
Somehow, the constitutional republic managed to stand for more than 200 years without a Department of Homeland Security to oversee elections. I got to say, right now, Kristi Noem is, and believe me, it's crowded, frontrunner for the worst, most incompetent and inhumane cabinet member of my lifetime. She's trying harder than ever to project strength because she's unpopular, and this is important, even within the Trump administration. The latest evidence of that comes from one of the most devastating pieces of political reporting I can remember. A new investigation into the bizarre behavior of Noem and her unofficial number two, Trump confidant and accused sexual harasser, Corey Lewandowski. According to this incredible piece in the Wall Street Journal, who spoke with multiple administration officials, Noem and Lewandowski are causing chaos in DHS, berating senior staff, giving polygraph tests to employees they do not trust, demanding expensive perks, like extremely expensive perks, and in one case, firing a U.S. Coast Guard pilot after Noem's blanket was left behind on a plane, according to people familiar with the incident. The piece also deals with Lewandowski and Noem's close relationship, noting how, quote, after photos in the Daily Mail showed Lewandowski going back and forth between his apartment and Noem's across the street last year, the secretary moved into a government-owned waterfront house on a military base in Washington. The pair, who are both married to other people, have publicly denied the reports of an affair, but people said they do little to hide their relationship inside the department. The DHS spokeswoman said the department doesn't waste time with salacious, baseless gossip. The Journal noted also that Lewandowski and Noem have lately been using a luxury 737 MAX jet with a private cabin in back for their travel around the country, according to people familiar with the matter. A $70 million plane that, in official documents, is earmarked for high-profile deportations, sources told the paper. At the same time, the story relates how even red states like Florida and Georgia have been waiting on funding from DHS for emergencies they've had, because Noem and Lewandowski have reportedly taken a lead role in reviewing contracts. At one point, I think all contracts over $100,000 had to cross their desk, and several officials inside the department said contracts and grants are being awarded in an opaque and arbitrary manner. And it appeared Noem was keeping tabs on how much TV time she got. Journal says she routinely berated staff if she saw border czar Tom Homan on TV and kept track of both of their appearances to make sure she was on TV more than him, according to people familiar with the matter. The DHS spokeswoman, who would only speak on background, said that was false. And then there was the blanket incident, in which Noem had to switch planes after a maintenance issue was discovered, but her blanket wasn't moved to the second plane, according to people familiar with the incident. The Journal writes, the Coast Guard pilot was initially fired and told to take a commercial flight home when they reached their destination. They eventually reinstated the pilot because no one else was available to fly them home.
Not only are these people deeply evil, they're deeply messy, and it's costing you millions of dollars. It's costing you millions of dollars. Kristi Noem isn't just being a gross, there's a lot of words I could say. Let me pick and choose, because I don't want Kash Patel to bang down my door. How will we go politely adulter? Kristi Noem loves affairs. Kristi Noem loves cheating on her husband, but she's doing it with your money. She's doing it with your money because these people hate us. And I think we should say that more. They do deeply hate us. And you know what, Kristi? I fucking hate you too. And we are going to call you out every single day on the show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Fuck Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller. Not